Hi, I think that I am live. We had some technical difficulties, but now I'm here on my phone. And so I'm going to try to maneuver this as best as I can, since this wasn't initially how we had it planned. I think it's okay. I think it's all right. Thank you. That was my husband helping me set this up. So if you just joined in, I had some technical difficulties with my laptop getting this going, but I think it's working okay on my phone. I see that there are some viewers, so that's great. So just to give you a little bit of background before we start. My name is Natalie Scenters-Zapico. I'm reading as part of Point of Contact Gallery's Cruel April reading series. They are doing wonderful events, or rather continuing their wonderful events even throughout our quarantine as a country through this live stream. And it's happening every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern here. So please be sure to come back next week to hear more poems. They would like for me to mention some people and organizations who were kind enough to help organize this and fund this Cruel April reading series, and they are the Syracuse University College of Arts and Sciences, the New York State Council on the Arts, Coalition of Museum and Art Centers at Syracuse University, CNY Arts, Syracuse University's Department of Languages, Literatures, and Linguistics, and Poets and Writers. Part of this reading series for Cruel April is joined by a really cool literary magazine titled Corresponding Voices. Their volume 13, which will include some of the poems that I'll be reading for you today, is available for pre-order, and you can, I think they're going to drop the link at some point, and I'll mention it again towards the end. So my name is Natalie Scenters-Zapico. If you just start tuning in, I'm a poet from the sister cities of El Paso, Texas, and Ciudad Juárez, Chihuahua, Mexico. I grew up right along the border. It's very different than, say, even San Diego and Tijuana, in that El Paso, Juárez used to be one city. That when it was decided that the river would mark the border in Texas, it sort of split this city, which was El Paso del Norte, into two separate spaces. So it's always been outside forces that have been kind of controlling the area, forcing this imaginary border on the area, to the point where people who are from the border really view going from one part of from going from the U.S. to Mexico as just going to another part of their very own city. I also grew up in a time in El Paso, Juárez's history I was an adolescent during the height of femicide, which is the mass killing of women because of their gender. And I also grew up, I was in college when the border wall that now Trump talks about as being sort of the example that he wants to put everywhere else along the border went up. So I was in college when that first one went up, and it's very interesting seeing how active people are in protesting the full border wall. When I think back about when our border wall went up, it felt so difficult, right, to explain to people why this was such a violence, right? It was really just kind of us college students who were protesting it. And so I think I'm going to begin. I'm going to read from both of my books and then some new work. So the first book that I'll read from was my first collection called The Verging Cities. See it here. And I'm just going to read 2 poems from this collection, and then we'll move on. So this is titled, Because They Lack Country. 1. He goes to desert bars and searches every stranger's pocket for the plastic heart, the stork that made him. He kisses bathroom stall handles and eats the ice in the urinal. Not Mexico, not Canada, not United States, or the coat made in Honduras, but the cloth of open sky is what he wants. He is hungry as a bare flagpole on a windy day. The streets moan when Border Patrol finds him. He says, "Don't arrest me because I lack country." Plastic wrist ties, serial number, toothbrush, shampoo in a plastic bag. He is made of what is missing. 2. She hitchhikes down the freeway in a dust storm and covers her ears as cars honk past. "Que mujer," they holler. The place where land and road meet, her body collapses. Skin lifts to the sun in sheets. Such thirst is only found in those that cannot ask for water. She carries herself to an abandoned outhouse. By night, Border Patrol finds her with infrared scanners. They point their guns, and the smell of urine fills the room. "Filthy," one agent spits to the earth. They take her body in a paddy wagon and drive for days. It doesn't matter the country, this desert is all the same. 3. In bed, she asks him, "Will you marry me?" He thought she asked, "Can I give you country?" His teeth are stars and the stars are teeth, and there is nothing to mark the difference. He draws lines across her body in pen, openings for respiration. He draws lines in squiggles, dots, and mapped curves. He draws cursive that says, our we, our we. The whole room dyed red. He whispers, "Night vision goggles will always stain us." One of the things that I felt was most striking as a college student when the border wall went up in El Paso, Juárez, was they also had these numbered metal poles along different parts of the border wall. And it was so strange to not only see your city so visibly split, so literally split, but also suddenly numbered, right? So the city is a body swallowed. We align our backs until we share the same spine. Your vertebrae are the numbered metal poles that mark this part of the border. 357, 358, 359. You are the twin I swallowed, lost within a mother's womb. I thought you died, but look how deep you fell inside me. A ball of teeth and hair nestled in my throat. When I speak, no one remembers how shallow our river can be. An arm cut from the body of its meaning. I'll spend most of today reading from my latest book, my second book, which is Lima, Limón. You can see it here, out of Copper Canyon Press. So one of the things about Lima Limón is that it takes its title from an old song that was sung regularly in my house by a woman named Conchita Piquer, who had a song called A la Lima y al Limón. And it was this song that I grew up singing while doing housework with my mom or whatever. And I always just liked the tune. It had like a really happy, peppy tune. And then as I got older, I realized that the lyrics for that song are really problematic and messed up. And so I was like very interested in why I was so fascinated with the song, even though it had such problematic lyrics. So just to give you a little bit of background about this song, just like a quick rough translation of the song, it's like, from the lemon to the lime, you will have no one to love you. From the lemon to the lime, you will grow up single. And basically the narrative of the song is it's this woman who at the very old age of 30 has never gotten married. And she sits all day at her window, and all of the children sing that warning, right? That you'll end up single just like her if you're not careful and get married when you're young and peppy. At the end, it was always explained to me that it was a really beautiful ending, because she ends up marrying someone who is like 20 years her senior. And now she is happy because she can walk the park with him. And so I always thought that was so strange. So I decided to sort of explore that title. I was also really interested in the fact that in Latin America, we can never really agree, like what is a lima and what is a limón, and who even uses the word lima, and what you'll get if you ask for a limón, whether you would get a lime or a lemon. So I sort of explore that in this series. So this is Lima Limón, Infancia. I want to be the lemons in the bowl on the cover of the magazine. I want to be round, to be yellow, to be pulled from branches. I want to be wax, to be white with pith, to be bright, to be zested in the corners of a table. I want you to say my name like the word lemon. Say it like the word limón. Undress me in strands of rind. I want my saliva to be citrus. I want to corrode my husband's wedding ring. I want to be a lemon with my equator marked in black ink, small dashes to show my shape, pitted and convex. Azar. I lie on my back in the grass and let the weight of a man on top of me. Out of breath, he searches for a place on my body that hasn't flooded. The only dry patch left is my hair, which he uses to wipe the sweat from his face. He is disgusted. I think I'm back. I think it cut. So I'll just sort of start that stanza over again. I wear a peineta and pin a mantilla to my hair. I want to be Conchita Piquer, warning women about becoming lemons. The goal, tener alguien quien me quiera. I want to be my mother singing me to sleep. A la lima y al limón, te vas quedar soltera. My grandmother hated peinetas, mantillas, and women who wore too much gold. She'd say this pulling my hair tight into a bun. She hated peinetas and mantillas, pero la necesidad obliga. I don't want to be the woman whose skin dissolves into the caldo she makes for her dying parents. That kind of woman cries alone because she has no fat husband to make her cry in a home of her own. A la lima y al limón, tú no tienes quien te quiera. A la lima y al limón, te vas quedar soltera. Vejez. My body is a fruteria where wives send their husbands to ask for a dozen limones. I pull at the fat around my waist and unravel a plastic bag. I count each limon from the bin between my ribs and feel for the juice under thin skin. Each husband takes a piece of my body home with him in every limon, a piece of my body he can slice into quarters and squeeze into his beer, a piece of my body to press into sugar and feed to his children laughing at the TV. What more can I give than my body in pieces to strange husbands? What more can I give than the limones that grow between my breasts? I tell each husband, "Ay limón, mi limonero, show me your list." Decrepitud. When the stranger learns I speak Spanish, he makes me stand in my underwear and read from Borges's El Aleph. And because I only want the stranger to love me, I read and wonder if Borges could help me jump through a period on the page to my death. After the stranger whispers, "You are Lima," your tongue strips ink from pages. I wonder if the stranger imagines Lima as green or yellow, as sweet or bitter, or as a city where the snow collects on your lover's eyelashes in mid-July. Say limón, clean and ripe and bursting on your tongue. Say lemon, broken and ugly and not up to par. Say Lima, rimac and rima and spoken from God. God speaks, rima rimac. God has spoken, rimac rima, lemon, lima, limón. The next poem I'm going to read is titled Kept. I was so thirsty, you cracked an egg into my mouth. I ate it and thanked you. We were so rich then. I imagined the moon, a being I'd never seen, in every nail you'd use to tack the tarp over our heads. I confused hens clucking for the ringing of the phone you'd never let me answer. With a spatula to my ear, I'd pretend to be a woman on TV and say, "Bueno?" Your anger was the gun you kept by the door, my fear the knife I used to chop onions. One night, you confused the sound of a snake rattling for rain. The snake opened its jaw, and its fangs were the color of mud. You reached for my thighs just before you died, and I couldn't face you. Once you stopped breathing, I rubbed your beard between my hands and played the most beautiful cumbia. We danced for the first time since our wedding. The desert has always played a really big role in my imaginative life, my imaginative space. This is You Are a Dark Body of water with a bed of rock barely visible from your surface. You are the only dark body of water in a desert littered with bleeding cactus. At your collarbones you carry a gulch held up by a thread of hair. You travel days drinking only from yourself because you are this land's only dark body of water. At the crease of horizon, you find a woman in bed, her chest wet with saliva. You kick her off the bed and take her place among its sheets. A man lies down in bed next to you. He swallows your dark body of water and gives you a woman's body, a body you've never known. As a woman, you receive sores from him, and through the sores you breathe, and despite the sores, you give birth to a child stillborn for lack of water. You kick the child off the bed, but it returns in the arms of the woman whose bed you stole. You cry to be made again into a dark body of water. The man kicks you off the bed, covers you with dirt, and turns you desert. You cry for a bed he will never let you sleep in again. You cry for your body's bed of rock, turned desert for lack of water. I'm going to read a few new poems that will be featured in the corresponding Voices Volume 13 that the link was just dropped and is available for pre-order that I'm pretty excited about. And I'm really grateful that Corresponding Voices was open to having my work in their magazine. So this is Paper Cuts. While crossing the river of shorn paper, I forget my name, my body, a please leave. I want a patron saint that will hush the dog growling at trimmed hedges it sees in the night. I want the world to be without language, but write my thoughts down just in case. Send help. The dog's growling won't let me sleep. I haven't slept in days. I am looking for a patron saint, but none will let me pray for guidance. There is a buzz in my right ear that never goes away, no matter how hard I hit the side of my head for loose change. Most mornings, I wonder who I can pray to that will make sure I never have to survive waking again. Most nights, I forget to pray the rosary, though I sleep with it by the bed. I've never owned a TV because I'll replay this conversation in my head. My dead lovers are hungry in the kitchen, so I fix them food they cannot eat. I make toast of vellum paper, fry an egg made of crepe. I only want a patron saint to protect me. I only want someone else to bleed. I'll read two more and then I'll take questions. This is The Trick is to Pretend. The ladder keeps going. The black dust that peels the paint off your car is on each rung. Don't touch your face. I imagine police with spotlights, a system to hunt my geolocation, the whir of a drone. I had dark lines across my feet, deep scars. Where did they go? The game is who can avoid interrogation, who can split themselves into 100 coded squares, lines in alternating directions, going. I want to enter this country like the rich, with the swipe of a card, a scan of the face. But they required a stomach strong enough for chemical labor. I climb knowing the only way down is by falling. Police paved a concrete square to catch me. Men wait with high-powered hoses to spray what's left of my body down. So this is the last poem that I'll read. This is Pledge Allegiance. I tap, tap, tap the window while my mother smiles and mouths, tranquila. I tap, tap the glass, my mother a fish I'm trying to summon. I tap until a border agent says stop, until a border agent shows me the gun on her belt. My childhood was caught on video border agents deleted every 3 months. I thought myself a movie star, blowing kisses at the children selling chiclets on the bridge. My cruelty from the backseat window caught on video, proof I am an American. The drug-sniffing dogs snapped their teeth at my mother, detained for her thick accent, a warp in her green card. My mother, who mouths tranquila. My mother's fingers dart towers on a screen for the Bio 10 scan. Isn't it fun? Says the border agent. The state takes a picture of my mother's left ear. Isn't it fun? I tap, tap, tap the glass and imagine it shatters into shiny marbles, a marble like the one I have in my pocket, the one I squeeze so hard I hope to reach its blue swirls I wish were water I could bring to my mother in a glass to be near her. Friends, Americans, countrymen, lend me your ears. But only the border agent replies, do you know the Pledge of Allegiance? She points to a flag pinned on a wall. I do. So I stand and pledge to the country that says it loves me so much. It loves me so much. It wants to take my mother far away from me, far away to the place they keep all the other mothers, to sleep on rubber mats and drink from rubber hoses. Don't worry, says the border agent. We will take good care of your mommy. My mother mouths tranquila. Her teeth 2 rows of gold I could pawn for something shiny like the border agent's gun. Friends, Americans, countrymen, lend me your ears so I can hear my mother through bulletproof glass, so I can hear her over the roar of American cars crossing this dead river by the wave of an agent's pale hand. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them. You can type them in and then I will read them and answer them. So while you're thinking about that, I'm going to get some water really quick. I am really grateful that Point of Contact Gallery kept this reading series going, even if it is virtually, because it's so difficult to be at home, in solitude, or almost just about solitude. And I think that little things like this can make a huge difference. I also want to recognize that this is so odd to do a poetry reading in this way. I did my first one like a week ago. This is the first time that I do one that's a little bit longer. But I just think that there's so much like good that can come of feeling some closeness. I think I have a question here, so let me see here. It says here, the question is, who are your influences, and can you tell us which poets you love and return to again and again? Sure, of course. I have a lot of influences. I mean, I think even, I love the work of Jaime Sabines in Spanish. I love Lorca. I think, the poems of Octavio Paz are also very underrated and very understudied in the U.S. Mainly people talk about the essays, right? Like Labyrinth of Solitude, as opposed to Paz's poetry, which I think is, both are incredible, but I think that the poems, I like him a little better as a poet personally. For contemporary writers that I feel like I'm very much in conversation with all the time, I would say I really love right now the work of Marcelo Hernández Castillo, Javier Zamora, Carmen Jimenez Smith. I think that the work that, even people like Terrence Hayes are doing, he really opens a lot of doors for me imaginatively, and gives me permission to try things that I perhaps normally would not. I'm a huge fan of and Wanda Coleman. Wanda Coleman was probably one of the first writers that I read that really helped me see how a lot of us are surrounded by form all the time, and we don't think of it as form. So, she does these great poems where she'll take a medical intake form, right, and write a poem as though it looks like a medical intake form. And for me, that I grew up in a border space that's so surveilled and so filled with both over documentation, right, by the federal government and the state government of individuals, but also by the world of fake documents too, right? For people to work and for people to have a life in the United States, right? And so I was always very interested. It very much captured my imagination. And of course, with regards to border poets, I love the work of Benjamin Alire Sáenz. I don't think I would be writing without him. Oh, good. I'm glad that you like Coleman. There's a great anthology that is actually edited by Terrence Hayes of Wanda Coleman's work that is coming out, I think, very soon, called Wicked Enchantment, that I'm really excited for. And so if I can plug that book, I will. Okay, well, this has been wonderful. If there aren't any more questions, I think I'll probably end the live broadcast. Thank you again for spending your Thursday evening or afternoon with me. Oh, there's one more question, just really, really quick. Do I also write in Spanish? So for me, this is a really interesting question. There are a lot of poets who come from the tradition of trying to write poems that are direct mirrors of each other, in translations of each other from one side to the other, right? So they'll write this is the poem that I wrote in English, and then this is the translation of it in Spanish, or the other way around, right? This is how I wrote it first in Spanish, and then this is my translation of it in English. For me, I have a very complicated relationship with translation. Of course, it's sort of like that old saying, it's a veiled kiss in many ways, in that it's better to have had the kiss, right, to have experienced the literature, even if it isn't translation. But I really am interested in writing poems that take place in the language that I grew up speaking, which is Spanglish. I think that there's a lot to be said for Spanglish. I think that there's a way in which code switching within the same poem is very, I think, realistic to the way that a lot of Spanish speakers engage in this country within, generations of family. And I really like it as the language of the place that I'm from. So thank you for the question. I'm going to end it now. But again, please pre-order the corresponding Voices literary magazine. And thank you so much, Point of Contact, for having me. I'm Natalie Scenters-Zapico, author of Limón and the Verging Cities. Thank you so much.